whatever you do, it's not perfect. Okay? One of the things about that safety focus of the floor, the head of the department really had a go at me on the last day and said, "Oh, your students don't know what they're doing." And I looked at him and said, "Pardon?" He said, "Oh, that fan," he said, "that's been there now for so many weeks, there's a cable on the floor." And I nearly, as an advocate of the good work that you've done, I nearly sort of went into battle with him. I thought, no, actually, all right, I see what he's saying. And I thought, I say, well, you show me how to teach. You do a better job than the students. Because the evidence I picked up was, I don't know whether the teachers are teaching PE as well as you've taught it. And that's truth. So maybe, and it's a bit like picking up on little things. You do need to have attention to detail, but I think enthusiasm, patience, adaptability. One more, what else would you say?
Humour, sense of humour.
Okay, I think you've got to have a sense of humour. Humour can sometimes be misinterpreted. I've worked with a lot of Singaporeans, and some of them think I'm, what do they call me? Not scold. I scold people too much. Scold. Because I get frustrated. And I go, come on, we did this last week, can't you remember? But then my expectation is particularly high, and my aspiration is particularly high. Okay. So, good to see that you all picked up the notion of keeping your classes staying on task. If they stay on task, then they've got more chance of improving because of your intervention. And I think the next stage for you now is to get evidence. And that evidence is by way of getting profiles, assessment and instruction, and linking what we call an outcomes-based approach to teaching. In other words, what can they do at the end of the lesson that they couldn't do? What difference have I made to the student? And you know that you can have two sorts of lesson. One, and you know that I like the idea of running out of space. I like the idea of a pie chart. You can break your lesson down into 3-point parts. You can have play, practice, play. And I call that the game situation, because you're playing a lot of games. If they can't play, you might go to another option, which is what I call clinical training, which is practice, play, practice. Does that make sense? And it may well be that in your 10-week or your 5-week lesson plan that you have game situation lesson, clinical training situation. We're getting rid of training now, because training implies that it's rote learning. And we're saying, no, we need to get the kids to practice. And you mentioned the word empowerment, and I think that's really important. I played that thing, the bare necessities, at the beginning, because I think you guys realise now, what are the bare necessities of being a functional teacher? And it is time, space, equipment, content, and pupils. And you've realised that there is a reality of being in school. What I'd like you to do, without my lead, I'd like you to arrange to meet the head of the department and pass on your lesson plans and your presentations. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'd like you to do that. Because I just feel the head of the department wasn't appreciative of the effort that you put in. Maybe not as aware. And I did notice at times he sat with some of you and talked. And I was a bit worried because I didn't know what he was saying, but maybe it was good. Like you, I now know you as a class. I feel now that we could really start working together, but unfortunately, it's the end of term. And that's one of the frustrations of working in school. But I worked in one school for 3 years, another school for 10 years. Okay, and I really knew the students and they got to know me. You also know that a little difference actually makes a huge, big difference. Attention to detail makes a big difference. I think there was a festive atmosphere. Okay, so my advice to you is dare to be different. And sometimes when you're learning to swim, it's frightening because you've got to leave the safety of the shallow water to go into the deep end. And we are throwing you into the deep end when you go out on teaching practice. Your first teaching practice, my advice to you is think a lot, say a little. Don't be critical of the teachers that you're with because there'll be reasons and rationales that you don't understand. Develop as a reflective practitioner. Think about when you're doing your lesson planning, what is the technique that I want to improve. Once you've got the technique, and I've got a joke now with, because it's don't be sorry, be early. And now the kids are saying to me when they drop the ball, sorry, I say don't be sorry, be precise. Right? So attention to detail. Get the technique right. Make sure that even within you're having games lessons, what are the techniques that you want to emphasise? Put those techniques under a little bit of pressure, maybe in a practice, and then get into the game situation. A couple of other things you need to think about, and this is just in response to the first two presentations. There's a thing called wickedness, and wickedness is this. I'm watching him, but I know the girl next to her is writing something down, and you've got the finger in your mouth, and I'm not looking at her, and you just turn your head back towards me. You're flicking your eyebrow, somebody's moving over. So that notion of having eyes in the back of your head is really important. And I think you've picked it up. When you've got the whole class, you can't just stay with this group, and it might be, you know, the great soccer playing girls that are playing with a beach ball and having a great time, and then leave the experts alone. You've got to move up and down. You've got to work all the time. The other thing is seamlessness. From transition from one activity to another. So get away from everybody in, sit down, talk for 2 minutes, everybody go back out again. There's only one time when I think you need to do that, and that's, I think, if there's a safety issue. I've just noticed that everybody, when we're playing floorball, we've got a guy, we call him the Grim Reaper. Right? Because he thinks, you know what the Grim Reaper is, he's got a scythe. He thinks that his hockey stick, he can go around chopping people down. And I'm seeing people flying around all over the place. He's hit them on the head, he's hit them on the... I said, hey, Grim Reaper, stop doing that. Right? And that's one of our in-service students at the moment. Okay, I think I've covered that there. So, pretty good.